All right. Thanks y'all for coming on. So for those who this is the first um, mini podcast you're seeing, the goal of this is just to get a little bit more visibility out for our coaches because we have such a big club and so many things happening. It gets really hard to know who's who. I know I was telling Jeff this and Bailey, I had a kid the other day be like, "Oh, are you a swimmer?" And I'm like, "No." So, it's just nice for people to get to see our faces and hear a little bit about us. So for those of you who don't know, these are our developmental coaches with LAC, and we have a range of different sites. So I love that because we'll get to kind of hear how things look at different sites. So I guess if we want to go around, Chelsie, do you want to start us out and just tell us a little bit about you and how you came to LAC? And we'll go around from there.
Sure. Yeah. So I started coaching back in the late 90s. I've coached for Summer League for many years. And then I ran the high school program in Oregon, where I was from, for a few years. And then I landed at LAC. So I've worked with kids ages under 5 to 18 years old. So I've been here about a year and a half.
But since the 90s, so a year and a half,
Yeah.
but you're well versed. That's cool. I didn't know that. Cool, cool. All right, Bailey, you want to go next?
Sure. So I started actually as a swimmer on LAC. I swim for Bill. And just throughout my years, I worked with Coach Sarah as a lesson teacher, and then I had more opportunities to kind of step into the position I am now, more, a manager role. So yeah, so now I coach lessons and stroke team, masters, and senior sprint. So I get them all.
Friday, you get to see the whole lifespan.
Oh yeah, really.
Wait, so I'm assuming Bill didn't teach you like from when you were little, or
No.
maybe
I
he did. I
started
don't
with
know. That'd be
Bill.
an experience.
That would be cool. No, I started with Bill when I was probably 14 or 15. So yeah, I've known him for a while.
Nice. Was Sarah your lessons teacher, or who taught you lessons?
I worked with her as a teacer in lessons. So
Okay.
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, she was my boss for a while. Now she's my boss still. And again. Yeah.
Nice. All right, Julie, you want to go next?
Yeah. So I started out, I was swimming super young. I just sort of like grew up in that place. And then like 5 years ago, I started teaching lessons. It was at a different place, but a few years ago, Bailey pulled me over to LAC and I've been working there ever since. It's been a lot of fun.
And Jane.
Hi, I'm Jane, and I'm coaching since I think 1994 for swim lessons. And I was kind of pulled out by my club coach after a swim practice and said, "Hey, it'd be really great to run to teach swim lessons." So that was my beginning of it, and I've always done it like throughout college and even when I worked outside of swimming as kind of my summer thing. And so I've been teaching for I guess over 20 years, and up in the 380 area is kind of where I've been. But I started in Grapevine area and even Northwest High School. I was there the first year that they had a swim team, so it's pretty incredible to see that you guys are running like lessons out of that site. It's really exciting. So remember, we used to have to drive all the way to Grapevine just for practices. So it's really exciting. So, but anyways, Steve asked me to come help, and so that's how I came here to LAC.
Yeah, and so for parents who don't know who's who, so Chelsie is at Flower Mounds, Bailey's at Keller, Julie is Northwest, and then Jane's at the Colony. So we got full coverage. I love it. So I guess the next thing I kind of want to go into is what for each of you. I mean, I know we all have our different reasons we got into coaching, but now being a coach, what is y'all's favorite part of coaching? What keeps you here?
I'll go first. I love, especially when at the beginning of the day and when we're getting ready for practice, my favorite thing is when I ask the kids, like, what was the best part of your day?
Oh, Did it freeze for anyone else?
Sorry.
I just love
Wait,
when
Chelsie,
they
back up
love.
a bit. You
Oh.
froze for a second.
Oh, so I love when I'm asking them about the best part of their day, and their answer is that their best part is being at swim practice. So that just makes me feel good because they like being there. But and then when kids get it, when we're doing a newer drill or when we've been working on a drill for a while and it's a little bit of a struggle for them, and then they just get it and they look so good. And to me as a coach, like that makes me feel successful. It's very rewarding. But just when I think about the kids, it makes me excited to come back every day.
Yeah. I think that is like such I mean, coaching I always hear is like coaching is a passion sport, and I think that's so true. Like if you're in it, it's we don't do it for the money, right? We do it for the kids. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Bailey, is that the same for you? You started talking, so I'm gonna
Yeah. I don't know. I love when the kids are, oh yeah, swimming's the best part of my day, all that stuff. But watching them grow up, I think is the best part. After being here for about 5 years now, just watching the swimmers go from stroke team, you know, through bronze and silver, and now they're in gold. I'm like, you were not that tall. You didn't know how to do a streamline. Like, who are you now? So watching them grow up through the years, it's really awesome. Yeah.
It's gonna be cool once you start getting the kids in your senior group.
Oh no. I don't want that.
You're old.
I do, but oh man, I feel old.
Anyone else? Same things?
Same thing, definitely. I mean, just the personalities of all the kids, you get to meet so many interesting little people, you know, and they bring in like they draw stuff sometimes. I mean, I have this one little girl, she's like, Coach Julie, I need you to put on my towel for me every single day in lesson. She is adorable. Like, that's one of the highlights of my day. Just so many different kind of kids, you know?
Yeah, there's some cuties. It's the best when they're like, I lost my first tooth or something, and you're like, oh my God, that's so cool. Oh, Jane, I think you're muted.
Sorry. I love the complexity of teaching swimming because it's like you have to be a career problem solver in order to be like a really good swim instructor or swim coach because like everybody has similar problems, maybe different, but like how they learn is different and how they put it all together. And it's kind of like what Chelsea and everyone else was saying. You know, as soon as they figure it out, that real aha moment when they get it is like the most rewarding thing ever. But their personalities, they come in, they tell you all about their day, and you can tell that they're excited. They're giving you high fives and they're being their quirky selves. I think that's just like it's so rewarding that they've opened themselves up to you and they learn to trust you. And through that process, like of trust, I mean, they're doing sometimes the scariest thing for themselves and learning to like overcome those fears is it's really special to be a part of that process.
Yeah, I think that's something we forget a lot of the time, like, you know, how scary it is at that age, you know, being in water like that for the first time. And, you know, what do you think is the biggest, I mean, this is bias coming from me, but I always think of the mental side of stuff, right? So like, what do you think is one of the biggest mental challenges for the kids coming in?
It's all fear. I mean, everything. It's the water, the cold, the hot, the parents being maybe that they're letting them down, or it's. I mean, water's scary, and it's you hear bad stories about it. You hear um, it, a lot of times parents have fears too, and they may not verbalize them, but like the kids can like non-verbally kind of like
They pick
feel
up.
that.
Yeah.
And so I feel like, you know, especially when they can't articulate that, they sense that their parents are upset or fearful, and so then they also are too.
Well, it might not even be an awareness thing of like, oh, you know, mom, dad are scared, so I should be. It's just it's more of a feeling for them. Yeah. Is that the same across the board, you guys think?
I think the same, especially when it comes to lessons. With stroke, I think that it's more of just their lack of confidence, not so much as a fear thing, but like they can do it. They just don't believe they can do it yet. And once they believe they can do something like a hard set. We're getting up to when in black 1 and black 2, and when we do test sets and getting ready to see who's ready to move up to bronze. And then we might say what the test set is going to be, and they might not have the confidence of knowing that they can do hard things. So we try and tell them, you can do hard things, or learning butterfly or learning breaststroke kick. I mean, something that's new and a little bit more challenging for them to have the confidence to know that they can do it. And it tends to, I feel that the confident kids sometimes tend to advance faster than those who don't have that yet.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so. For lessons, I totally agree. It's definitely fear and confidence. And then for senior, I've noticed it's motivation, wanting to go in and do the exact same thing every day. It's kind of boring. Like with lessons, you always have something new. There's something, fun to do every day. You're trying something new, and it's, you're never bored. In senior, in the higher level you go, sometimes there's a level of boredom that they reach. So I think motivation is their biggest mental challenge at this point for senior.
I feel like at the younger age, like there's more fun involved. When you get older, it's a lot more having to just go and do it, even if it is boring. So how do you guys kind of juggle that? Like, how do you keep things fun while still doing all those really technical pieces? Because there's so much more learning that needs to be done at that age, but you're still keeping it really fun.
I think good teachers, good teachers can make or break a class. If they can be engaged with their swimmers and invite them into, a comfortable space where they can have fun and they can play, but they're also learning. They're progressing every time. They're always, trying to be better. Good teachers make or break a class, I think.
I think it's energy. So like as a teacher, those good teachers, you come in, you have to channel your inner camp counselor. And the kids, like, they model that, they mirror it, and they're like, "Oh my God, coach is so exciting today." And they get excited that we're excited about it. So it's like you said before, swimming is a passion sport. So if we're showing passion for it, and you have instructors that aren't coming in like, "Hey, we're blowing bubbles today," and they're not making eye contact, they're not getting to know them. It's all about the energy. So I agree with that.
I feel like that could be really hard to keep that energy up, especially like, when you're working another job, or, you have several groups and you're having to kind of manage that between them. I think that could be really hard. So how do you know, like, when you look at kids coming into your groups, like, how do you know a kid is ready to be in the water? And like, because you're always going to have that fear piece, right? How do you differentiate between this is just fear and they'll get past it versus this kid is not ready to be here yet?
The kids are like a puzzle box, like that first, I know, and Chelsea and I, we kind of share some people like I liked like sitting in on Chelsea's classes too, and she was doing some training with the new instructors. But it's like you come in and you have like this, you've met this athlete for the first time, and you have to figure out like where they're at, and so you're just trying to categorize them as best you can, without like actually knowing like who they are, what are their motivations and stuff. So sometimes you'll get kids who might be a little bit more advanced, but they are just really nervous, and or they have stranger danger or something like that. It's just that process of getting to know them. But like it is like it's like a sorting hat, you've got, it's the Harry Potter thing, and you're like, but you can tell, like, you're looking at nonverbal cues, looking at verbal cues, like from the athlete. Are they, if they're nervous, they might be a little tighter in the water, like their muscles are not as relaxed. So they might be crying, they might, look nervous. So you're really looking at those nonverbal cues, and then you're starting to look at skills. And we have routines that we do to try to, like, okay, do they go under the water, do they put their goggles in, or do they put their nose in, or when they put their head under the water, are they holding their breath without um breathing bubbles, like there's different things that we look at. So that's my thoughts.
And then to piggyback on that, from a parent's perspective, I think that sometimes, we as managers and then the teachers are with the child, but sometimes the parents might view that, and I've had feedback in the past of, it doesn't look like they're advancing or progressing, but they can't feel the child underwater. They can't see the lack of bubbles happening underwater. So there's so much more going on than I think is able to be visible from the stands. So it's kind of a good thing for parents to get some insight of what all those parts of the puzzle are of each child. And each child is unique. And that's what's unique about our program, I think, is that in a class of, say, 5 kids, you could have multiple levels in one class, and our teachers are trained to teach individually to that swimmer and not as a class as a whole. We're not all working on level 3. We're not all working on sidekick. Each child is working on what they need to work on to advance. So it doesn't even matter which class you're in, you're going to get the same type of instruction because it's personalized.
100%.
So kind of, I think that was a great piece you said with, like, looking at the parent view versus, the instructor view. And I think that's hard to communicate a lot of the time. So are there any specific things that you think are helpful for parents to know from, like, the coaching side, or, how can parents be supportive in that role?
Trusting us. I would say, like, trusting our process. It's I've only been here a year and a half, but this program has been in place like this that Sarah has created for many years. And so it works. We just have to trust the process and just know that us as managers and the teachers as teachers want their kids to succeed. So whether it looks like they're advancing or not, our goals are all the same. And so ultimately we want their child to succeed, and just trusting our process.
I want to piggyback on that. I love that so much because I think the difference between our program and other programs is you have a lot of money, people trying to make money. They're inside shopping centers. I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus, but they are trying to keep the rent going. And so they delay this process as long as they possibly can in the levels. But like Chelsie said, Sarah's built this program where we want them to progress, we want them to succeed, and we want them to like move up. And so I think it's hard for parents to trust us because they've been experiencing those type of programs where they're just trying to elongate it as long as they possibly can. So we get them in the water like 4 days a week sometimes in the summer, 2 days a week during and we're trying to piggyback every single lesson from the previous one, and we're trying to get them to go through it. But like but parents are, I think, managing expectations too. Like for parents is some of them don't have the swim background, and so they just want to see their kids go from A to Z, but I don't know if it's hard for them to remember, like, how long did it take you to learn to ride a bike or to play a sport? It's like that 10,000 hour rule where you've got to put in all of this muscle memory that we're having to undo from like water wings or from walking around on shallow pools. Well, their body is like this in the water, and we're having to untrain like bad muscle memory habits to get them this way in the water. So I loved what Chelsie said there, so I was trying to piggyback on it. So I didn't mean to step on y'all, Julie and Bailey, but I was inspired. So good job, Chelsie.
So I was talking to one of the age group coaches who's kind of like silver, gold, all that level. And he was like, oh, we were talking about different drills and things. And he was like, oh, I really like this new drill. We were just practicing it, whatever, this week. And I really love it for my AGS kids. And I turned to him and I was like, we do this in stroke team. Like our lesson kids are learning these body positions and, all these things. Like we're starting our skills so they can continue on all the way through. I think that's another good, like, kind of base of LAC is we want to do it the right way in the beginning. So it might take a little bit longer. we're putting them in different positions that they haven't been in. What is sidekick? Like, they've never done it before. So learning those new skills might take a while, but in the long run, it all fit together.
So Bailey, I feel like this question is good for you, but also, those who, no, it's not bad. It's just, those who are, but I think Chelsie and Jane too, you guys are seeing this over, a couple decades, right? How do you think that progression looks long term? Like, not just, and I mean, again, physically and psychologically, getting to see those kids, like, have you seen that change, one, over time, but two, just kind of through the season when you're working with different coaches and such?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think throughout our program, we start with drills that apply to their level and their age and kind of what is achievable for them. So we might start with sidekick for the little ones, and then later in the season or the next group up, sidekick face in. Like, it's just always adding pieces on and on and on. So our swimmers that we've had since lessons or since stroke team kind of know those drills and like building blocks a little bit. I don't want to say better, but they've gone through it a little bit longer. So they have a deeper understanding of kind of what we're looking for on those drills. So I've noticed that with just the age group program, really, all those kids from stroke team are like, oh, that's a good sidekick. I taught that kid. I know that one, or, just things like that. Yeah.
That pride of, I claim that, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
So I want to go back really fast. You guys were talking a lot about that fear piece. And again, I'm biased because the psych thing's my piece, but what do you guys specifically do to help kids get past that? And do you ever see it kind of, oh, it went away and now it's back again?
I'd say the biggest thing is don't rush them. I witnessed not this past summer, but the summer before, I was filling in over at Julie's pool, and she had a teacher over there that was so amazing with these little 3-year-olds who would take the time, and it is worth 10 minutes in the first couple lessons of building that relationship and gaining that trust in order to then be able to be more successful later, rather than just forcing them to do it right away. So I watched her connect with these kids, and I feel like it's really about connection and trust. And if you take the time to do that in the beginning, then they can then advance faster later. But one of her teachers just did a fantastic job of that. And I just feel like a lot of fear can be dissolved by a good relationship and a firm foundation of trust.
Having that like home base
yeah. And then you could see it come back. Maybe if that teacher's absent and they have a different teacher and they haven't, then that fear might come back because they've built that trust with that teacher. And if the trust hasn't turned into confidence yet, then that might return. And then you kind of have to do the same thing. And maybe they'll have an off day, unfortunately, but hopefully then it will, build back later.
Mm-hmm. So in getting kids ready from, just the learning to swim piece to the competitive piece, what does kind of that transition look like from y'all's perspective?
Mm-hmm. For me, I mean, it's a lot of maturity. I think it requires a lot of, can you listen to directions? Can you be in a big group? Can you, follow the drills specifically like we ask and all that stuff? It's really a willingness to learn, I think, from the kids. They're ready. Those kids will walk in, am I moving to stroke team today? Not today. We got a couple more things to work on. You don't know breaststroke kick. So just kind of things like that. Like those kids they're wanting to be there, wanting to grow and be better. I think that's a big piece. I'm like looking at those kids. I'm like, oh, I want that one.
So it's not necessarily like, the technical side as much as the mental side. That's what I'm hearing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I can see too kids who maybe over the summer, they come back in the fall and they weren't on my radar to possibly at the end of this season be ready to move to stroke or from stroke to competitive. And now all of a sudden they're on my radar, and maybe it's just an extra 3 months of growing and maturing, and they're, mentally they're in a better place and they're not playing around at practice as much. They're taking it more seriously. So yeah, I would say there are many pieces to that. And we try to communicate that to parents because parents just want their kids to move up. They want them to move from lessons. When are they going to stroke? From stroke, when are they going to competitive? So, and like when, and our program, I feel like is a big stress on not moving kids until they're ready and until we see that they're ready. If we move them before they're ready, that can be detrimental to them in the long run if they're not, could be unsafe or they could end up injured. But maybe I remember Jason said in one of our staff meetings when we were talking about evaluations that it's important sometimes that maybe if that kid is on the cusp of you're not sure if they're ready, give them a season of being a leader because they need then a season, maybe they were toward the back and then you're like, I'm not sure, maybe they need a season of being the leader of that group, of their lane or things like that to develop those skills. And then they have even more skills before they move on. So yeah, there's a lot to think about. I have a lot of sleepless nights before evaluations go out.
Well, I think that is such a big piece, like especially talking about confidence. And, I always think the opposite of fear is confidence, right? Those two things balance each other out. So, that being the goal, I do think leadership opportunities and taking the time to kind of develop that side of it is really important in having the confidence, because I have seen that where, kid is kind of behind the pack and it makes such a difference giving them that chance to develop the leadership and the voice within a group and then take that into the next group of not just, oh, I scraped by to get here. Oh, I had leadership and now I'm ready to be a part of this group.
Yeah.
Oh, Jane, you're muted again.
I think another aspect that to your question that LAC does really well is the JSL. The JSL meets. I mean, I've coached TAF, I coach high school, and to see how more prepared the swim lesson kids are to transition into a USA swim meet it's the most advanced I've ever seen. So kudos to like all the people that make JSL meets happen because it's really scary the first time that they go to a swim meet and to see that like the something that you just had fun doing is now an actual sport and like we can kind of feed them into it at a gradual rate and get them to practice good technique to swim fast and to kind of like learn to have those relationships with their teammates outside of practice that keeps them in the sport, so.
And do you guys see like a big, because I know JSL's a pretty recent addition to our team at least. So, the difference between stroke meets versus JSL, do you guys see any differences between those two as far as the kids?
Go ahead, Chelsie.
No, go ahead, Bailey.
Oh gosh. Okay. So for me, I know, right? For me, the JSL is the first couple ones we did were a little bit crazy. The kids were, they were kind of new to it still. Most of these kids actually had done stroke meets. Yeah, so they were kind of prepared. They knew how to take your mark and go on the, on the whistle and everything. They were all ready for that. So there was a little bit more setup in our stroke meets. I feel like we, sit them down, number them one by one. They're a little more ready to go that way. But yeah, I think they're really pretty similar. It's just the different events. Yeah.
Chelsie, did you have something to add to that?
No, that was pretty much it. I feel like the stroke meets are the first step, and then JSL adds another piece because there's still some instruction, there's still some hand holding, but not as much as we do in stroke meets. But stroke meets give them that first environment of a non-stressful, non-competitive environment of getting to know what it's like to be at a swim meet, but we hold their hand. Almost literally. And so we walk them through it and parents see that. And I think I think it's a great piece that we offer with Stroke Team because they get to be a part of swim meets, but their parents can take a breath and relax and know that we are going to walk them through it. And then especially once they do their first one, then the next one, they know what to expect more. They're ready. But it's like, I just feel like our Learn to Swim program and then feeding into stroke team, it's all about these building blocks of a foundation of fundamentals. And then each group beyond that just continues to build on that up through LAC's program. So.
Yeah, I think LAC just does so many things to, create really strong swimmers like across the board. I think more and more is being added, and it's cool to see even being here for just a couple years. So we're coming to the end of our time, but a question that's more kind of fun towards the kids getting away from swimming a little bit. So growing up, what was y'all's absolute favorite fictional character? It can be from a book, a TV show, a movie, whatever it is.
Okay. Emperor's New Groove,
Oh,
Kronk, with the squeaker McSqueak. That, yeah, 100%.
that's a good choice.
I still do that voice.
Can we hear it?
No. On the pool deck. Later.
Oh, come on, Bailey.
Oh, no. Sign up for swim lessons and then I'll show you. No.
Swim-a-thon. Come swim-a-thon.
Yeah, come swim-a-thon.
That's a hard one. I think I really like it's not from my complete childhood, but then as I got a little older and I was like reading to kids and watching movies with kids, is Matilda. I just like how she overcame so many challenges, and her love of books and reading, and I just loved her character.
That's a good one. I always forget about her.
Better than Kronk.
Jane,
I can't do her voice, Bailey.
Oh yeah, I'm a child, so grew up like watching Bill Bright, and it's just like so spunky and fun and full of color, and so anything, from the 80s, definitely.
The
But,
80s.
yeah.
No, I loved Eloise, all those movies and the books and everything. I was an Eloise girl, like Plaza Hotel, everything was pink. It was beautiful.
I actually didn't realize there were movies. I read the books, but I did not realize those were made.
Yeah, they have the animated ones and then they have the live action one. That was my jam when I was 6,
It's very good.
I think Coach Julie can throw out a good accent too, can't she?
Oh, not right now, no. Just like Bailey said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say Hermione Granger all the way. Like a classic. Well, anyway, so we're pretty much out of time, but thank you guys for coming and talking about that, because I think it is so good so many different people contribute to the development of these swimmers, and it really starts at that foundation, which is y'all. And I know you guys don't get really included in a lot of the coaching stuff sometimes because it's just the competitive people, and I'm like, but that's such a big piece of our program and what we do. And I think it is important for the parents to be able to kind of see that other side of it and get to know y'all a little bit, because it is, it's scary coming into a program for the first time and not really knowing what you're getting into. So yeah, thank you guys for coming and doing this. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
All
It was
right.
nice to see everybody.
Yeah, it's
Nice to see you too.
like getting, everyone from all the different sites into one place is a rare occasion. So that's awesome.
I almost didn't recognize everybody without their swimsuits on.
Yeah, if anybody ever has questions, y'all are all on the website, I think, so they can reach out to y'all and ask for more information. I think that's great. So thanks.